Assalamu alaikum, family. Peace be unto you, and welcome to Sajdah's Monday morning motivation. We're going to talk about vibrational management this morning. So tune in, sit back. I got me some good old rooibos chai, homemade, and like, subscribe, check out these commercials, and we'll be right back.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Peace be unto you. Welcome to the Sajdah Monday morning motivation. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you all had a good weekend. I hope you took care of yourself over the weekend. I hope you took some time to invest in yourself over the weekend. If you didn't, it's not too late to still do it. So make sure that you go out there and do that. Wow. I had some interesting questions, some interesting things in my spirit this morning that kind of stayed there for a while. One thing I was thinking about very heavily over the weekend was, how does a person know if they are stuck on a vibrational hamster wheel? Are they stuck? How do they know? And it's a matter of checking in with yourself and checking to see how you feel. But some people don't spend time. Some of us don't spend time going to the essence of how we feel. And so we use deceptive intelligence to project an image or how we feel. But a wise person can look at us and tell that we're vibrating on a very low frequency. And how do you know if you're doing that? Let's say you go to your 10-year reunion, college reunion, or you see people you haven't seen in 20 years, 25 years. And if you're the one who's still mad over something that happened 20 years ago, then you have not done the work on yourself. You should be so busy working on yourself, improving, developing yourself. And if you are there and you're really working on healing and improving yourself, you probably won't even, you shouldn't even remember much about that person, because if you started healing, you probably dismissed them, nor do you even remember what their problem is. And you don't really realize that to a wise person, you look dumb, you look unevolved. I won't say dumb, you just look unevolved, you just look like you haven't moved on. But when your focus is on a system, or trying to obtain things, or trying to move in a certain direction so that people will think something about you, when you're building a life filled with things that are inauthentic to you, then you never move through or move past places where you were emotionally stuck, or places where somebody did something to you. You can't get past it. You're stuck there. And so when a person sees you 20 years from now, 25 years from now, and if you're still there, then you got some work to do. We got some work to do if that's where, where we still are. And I'm not talking about being triggered. I'm talking about when you still are there and it's vivid and it's a vivid emotion, then you got some healing to do. You got some work to do. So let's work on ourselves and not allow ourselves to be stuck on an emotional hamster wheel where we are regurgitating trauma. In other words, negative events or negative things that happened to us that had a negative impact on us. We're making a God out of it because we've replaced that trauma. We've replaced God with that trauma. That's deep right there. You took that thing that happened to you, that person that offended you, right or wrong, whether you're right or wrong, and you made that a God besides Allah. How do we know that you did that? How do we know that you're a polytheist and you replace God with things and circumstances? Because when you're growing and developing, the work is so involved and it's so deep that sometimes you don't even recognize people from many years ago. Sometimes if you do, you remember them, but you don't even remember much about them, or you don't even remember what happened, what the situation was. So if you catch yourself and you're there, it's no shade, but you got to do some work. You got to go deep, and you got to put some work in on yourself. If you are busy focusing on how do I build, how do I develop, how do I make sure that I don't put myself in a situation where that thing that I began to make a God doesn't happen to me again, then that whole evolutionary process, God will have you so busy. See, this is how his mercy and his grace works. When you have mercy and grace, he have you so busy working on so many things that you have to figure out who you got to be in order to get these things done. And the stuff that you went through, or the things that happened to you, or the person that made you mad, or the person that hurt your feelings, becomes a non-factor and almost irrelevant. And you literally can see them and not have a issue or a reaction. Not even think in your mind, like, let me figure out how to insult them. Let me figure out how to make sure they know that I don't like them. A wise person is looking like, oh, baby, please grow. Because when you allow things to regurgitate in your mind like that over and over again, you start to go insane. See, now that wise person knows you're crazy. Knows that, and I don't mean that in a negative way, because we can allow things to make us go crazy, but you're going to be crazy if you're feeding on that negativity for that many years. You shouldn't even remember it. You probably should damn near hardly not even recognize the person, like, oh, hey. Because if you are nursing on God and nursing on that relationship and looking for God in everything and developing that, then that mercy, that grace is so beautiful, because you won't even remember that stuff. You won't even remember it. Yeah, that's when people become manic. You're right, Sister Monica. Manic behaviors. And you can look at a person, and if they're still there, then you better know that they're probably manic. They're probably some form of mental illness there, because Allah has a way of healing, and his grace and mercy is so powerful. But, somebody asked me, it tied into somebody asking me a question last week. They said, why is it that I just struggle with manifesting what I want? And I said, it's real simple. And I said, and I don't mean to trivialize it, because it can be hard in practice, but it's very simple in theory. And here's a simple theory. You've replaced God with something. If you replace God with another person, then you're going to have a difficult time manifesting, because that person has become and has received more focus than God. But what did you replace God with? That's what I asked the person. It was a sister. I said, sis, what did you replace God with? Was it your husband? Was it your children? Was it your job? Is it your ego? Is it the lies you've told or the lies you live? Is it the trauma that you just won't let go of? What did you replace God with? And when you go through the library of your mind, the library of your behaviors, the library of your thoughts, the library of your interactions, you figure out what you replaced God with, and you start to work to correct that, then you'll begin to start making things happen. This is why a lot of us just default into a position where I got to default into a position where somebody's just going to give me something. I got to do a quick fix. I got to go get with somebody, marry somebody. Maybe they got contracts. Maybe they got a deal. Maybe they are a famous entertainer or something, but I got to just go get with somebody because I'm not capable of manifesting anything on my own. And I'll go and get with somebody I don't even care about or I don't even love because I can't do it. And so I'll just replace God with them and just kind of rely on them. And then I'll go crazy and be all manic and threaten to cut their throat and all this kind of stuff if they don't give me what I want. All because the faith is not there because I've replaced them with God. Let me know in the chat if this makes sense to you. We have to go through the inventory of our mind. We have to go through that whole library of thoughts, our library of our behavior. What are we doing? What did we replace God with? Did we replace God with food? Did we replace God with a relationship? Are we so busy living a fake life? Did we replace God with the fake life? What did we replace God with? Did we replace God with how we look? Did we replace God with smoking? What did we replace God with? Servant Nasir says, beautiful language. What did you replace God with? Yes. And I you know what? I told this person, we were in a coaching session, and I said, I want you to ask yourself this question. And so we just kind of did a short little meditation, went into a little bit of a meditative state. And I said, I want you to say, God, what did I replace you with? And address it head on. God, what did I replace you with? Or however you say it. Allah, what did I replace you with? Spirit, what did I replace you with? Source, what did I replace you with? Jehovah, what did I replace you with? Jesus, what did I replace you with? Whatever you call that entity that you believe in, what did I replace you with? What did I replace you with? And get quiet and allow yourself, because yourself knows better, to tell you what you replaced God with. Brother Ronald says, removing God is like unplugging the cord from the socket where the electricity is present. It is, Brother Ronald, but here's where it's a little more subtle. If it was that, if we were that aware and it was that obvious, because we are so aware, because you are 100% right. But part of our problem is that we're not that aware. So we don't know when we've unplugged from the socket. It's like people who are falling, we call them like they fall out of the nation or fall away. They don't know that they're falling. So when they unplug, it's like there's still a little light there because they're not looking to the source of the light for the light. They're looking over here at the reflection of the light on something else. And when they unplug, even though the light went out, the reflection is still over there. Does that make sense? So they're not looking at the source of light. They're looking at the reflection of the light. So when they unplug, they don't know that they've unplugged. They don't know. And a wise person who knows where the source is and still has their eye on the source knows that you've unplugged. They can see that you're functioning at a low vibrational, low frequency level, but you can't see it because you're looking over here. You're looking away from source. So you don't even know that you unplugged. That's the dangerous thing about it. So the question has to be, Allah, what did I replace you with? And it doesn't have to be a whole lifelong thing. It could just be in a particular subject matter. It could be on a particular subject. What did I replace you with in this situation? Man, this relationship was so tumultuous and it was so challenging. And, you know, what part of this do I need to own? What did I replace you with? So that's what we got to look at. First, we got to turn ourselves. It's like it tells us in our prayer, turn ourselves towards Allah. That way we can see when we unplugged. Because we don't know. A lot of times we don't know. When we are flailing around in the darkness, we don't even know. Have no clue. Satan comes in when God is replaced. Yeah. I would say that. And for those who don't get that energy that is opposite of the God energy, opposite of the creative energy, when you start to move away from that and focus again on that opposite energy, when you start moving away from the power source and focusing on the opposite energy, then that is a deviant energy. That is going to be a satanic energy. And that is the energy that's going to make you manic. It's going to make you depressed. It's going to make you crazy. It's going to make you want to do crazy things. That's the energy that's going to make you want to do that. Let me see who all's in the chat here. Let's see who we got. I see y'all in the building. Okay. We got, this is Brother Robert 11X. Assalamu alaikum. Listen to good, inspiring music and laugh as often as you can. Yeah. Yep. And check in with yourself. Check in to see how you feel. Wa alaikum salam, servant Nasir. Sister Monica, wa alaikum salam, sis. Great Monday to you as well. Let's see who we got here. Brother Ronald Robinson, Sister Zakia, wa alaikum salam. Yes, yes, and yes. Yeah, this is really working on healing and working on getting healthy, really going into yourself and studying yourself. But check yourself. Who are you still mad at from 20 years ago, from 30 years ago? Let's start right there, because you should not be dragging around some petty crap from years ago when you and probably the other person was both immature. If you're still dragging that stuff around, stop right now and say to yourself, Allah, why am I making a God out of this? And you may say, I ain't making no God out of him. I just don't mess with that person. Okay, stop right there. If you don't mess with the person, you just don't mess with the person, but you're making a God out of it because you're not allowing yourself to be healed. It's like people who go to that high school reunion and then they come out all upset and emotional. Well, you got to allow yourself to heal. Yes, you're making a God out of the problem, because if you were working on yourself and you had your eye on the sparrow, as they say, then you'd be so busy thinking, focusing. The grace of Allah, the mercy of Allah would be all over you that you wouldn't even be able to think about what that other thing is. You wouldn't even be able to think about, let me figure out what I can do, how I can do something. This is why people who are sellouts in their community, who are plants for the enemy, who are haters, they don't have any reasoning power. They can't get past stuff because they've replaced God with whatever and whomever they're working for and working with. And it's a dangerous place to be, because that God that you created besides Allah can't stop you from going crazy. Can't stop you from barking at the moon. That person that sent you off on a mission to do something crazy or got you hating on somebody else can't stop you from walking upside down on your head down the street. Cannot stop you from being manic. Can't get you off them meds that you on. Can't get you off that hamster wheel. But what can get you off of it? Love. First, the love of self. And we got to be so conscious of our vibration, so conscious of where we are, even when it comes down to spending money. If you walk into a store or you go and buy a service and the people don't respect you and they treat you a certain kind of way, you might have to continue with the transaction because you're already in it and it may be more detrimental to disrupt it. But don't take yourself back there again. Don't go back there again. Don't follow your good money after bad energy. So we're checking in with ourselves. We're not holding 20, 30, 40-year-old grudges. We're so busy working on ourselves. And then our everyday lives, we're paying attention. Where's my money going? Where's the good energy? Where am I plugging in? You walk into a store and they start following you around, acting rude, don't want to help you, don't give them your money. I was in a store and I wanted to check out a perfume. And the woman, because it was a really expensive perfume, and she just walked past me. And at first I thought maybe she was just going to get something or doing, but she just kept walking and then went down to the other end of the counter and looked back at me. And I said, you won't get no commission from here. Somebody else got this. You will not get it. And some people may say, well, you ain't hurting them. Yeah, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm helping myself. Because I know if I go to another place and go to the counter and look at that same perfume, and I know if I'm vibrating on a high level, I'm going to leave up out of there with samples and, a little bit extra, a little bit of something, and maybe enjoy myself during the purchase. But I'm not giving it to you because you will not get commission off of me and you treated me like that. So it was a Black woman and she went to the end of the counter and just kind of looked back at me. And I'm going to tell you something about me. I'm rarely, if ever, nasty to people. So I know I wasn't looking mean or looking crazy or being mean. And then a white salesperson, when I got ready to leave, tried to stop me. And I told her, I said, I would stop and give you my business so that you get the commission. I said, but this woman down here, I said, I don't even want you guys to get this expensive sale on your books today because of how she just acted. She was like, oh, no, I'll take care of you. I said, no, it's okay. Somebody else got it. And I'm going to go there. And if they don't act right, then I just won't get it or I'll go somewhere else. But I'm not going to follow my good energy money with bad energy service or situations. And there's been times where I was in a transaction with somebody, not a retail transaction, but let's say a service. And the person, I just didn't like the way they talked to me. I didn't like the way they treated me. I didn't like the way they acted. And I just said to myself, you know what? Not using them anymore. Because this is the thing about being in the service industry. And we should all make sure we remember that. Remember this, it's one thing if you're selling something on a retail basis. You sell the person, you're nice to them those few seconds, you ring them up, give them their bag, and they're out the door. And so there's not a lot of emotion attached to why they came in the door to purchase that item from you in the first place. You're just trying to create an experience, make them feel good, get the sale and send them on their way. But oftentimes in the service industry, people are coming to you because they need help. Whether you're an attorney or an accountant or you sell insurance, whatever, a PR agent, most of the time the person is coming to you because they need help with something. And embedded in that need for help, okay, is an emotion. And generally that need for help will also ignite some insecurities, because nobody likes to just, feel like they're helpless and like they don't have a choice but to, deal with you and you got an attitude or whatever. So when you're in the service industry, it's very important that you honor your fiduciary relationship with them by at least being supportive and being nice. If you can't be nice to a person who has come to you in need and is desirous of your services, then you don't deserve that person's business. That's like needing a divorce attorney and you're already going through emotional turmoil and that divorce attorney treating you worse than the person you're divorcing. Don't go back to that person. You might be in the middle of it. You might be like, you know what, we only got one more court date and then we settling, so I can't just walk away. You may have to go through with the transaction. Could be a real estate transaction, could be something like that. But you feel like, okay, I got to go on and go through with it. But you got to think twice. You should think twice before you go back to that person if dealing with them made you feel bad about the situation that you came to get help from. It's a real wise thing we should begin to think about, especially for us as Black people, because it gets so hard to dissect. Some of us go through so much, or when we're in need, all these other isms come up, right? Racism, sexism, all of these things come up, religious discrimination. When we're in need, when people see you're weak and you're down, and especially if you don't have any money or you have limited resources, then people tend to criminalize that. And everybody tries to be a predator and pounce on it so they could get an extra dollar here, an extra dollar there. So by the time you come to that service provider that you're seeking, from whom you're seeking their assistance, you may really be challenged in terms of dissecting like what's what and who's who at this point. You just know, I need somebody to help me get up out of this because I don't know what I'm going to do. You want to be spiritually aware enough so that you pay attention to how that service provider is treating you. Because for service providers, the business is all a referral business. So you as a good customer can refer, 2 people to them, and those 2 people can refer, those 2 referrals can turn into 4, then those 4 can turn into 8, And then those 8 can turn into 16 repeat customers. So the referral business is a very sensitive business. And I strongly urge any of my coaching clients that are in the service business, if you don't make it a habit of treating people with respect, with treating people with giving them a level of confidence that you can at least handle your fiduciary responsibility and be respectful and friendly about it, then you should get out of the business. You should get out of the business. And you're right, Brother Ronald. There are a lot of scammers in the market. I think even more than scammers, because a lot of times we can see scammers. How do we see the scammers? Oftentimes we see them, especially if we kind of wake up and get through our emotional trauma, we can see the scammers. But you know what we don't see is we don't see the predators, because those predators are cunning. They know how to make you feel good. Most of the time they may be attractive, maybe something about them that you're attracted to. It could be something as simple as they look nice in a suit. Or it could be something as simple as they work out and they look like they got a great body. This is men or women. It could be something simple as that, but it's something that they do that first attracts you to them. And then they start preying on you. You get the love bombing. You get the narcissistic behaviors. You get all of that stuff that happens. And that a lot of times we miss when we are in need and looking for a service provider to help get us out of a particular situation. And so we become, what do I want to call it? Like a carcass for a person that is looking to prey on you. Food, we become their next meal. So it's a challenge, because these sometimes they're fraudulent service providers, Brother Ronald, but a lot of times they're real service providers. They really honestly do the work, and they can do the work, but the way they treat you in the process, and the way they make you feel in the process, and the way they talk to you in the process is when your antenna has to go up. And they may very well get the job done perfectly, but your antenna has to be up, and you got to be able to say, but I didn't like the way they made me feel. Because what's most important is how you feel right now in this moment. Do I feel strong enough to move forward and heal? Do I feel strong enough? Sister Monica says, I vet everyone just by nature, so those reviews work well. But I go through a vast amount to see the patterns, meaning if they improved over time or much of the same. Good morning, Mom. Yeah. So let me make this clearer, because I may not be making this clear based on a couple of y'all's comments. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Imani. I'm not necessarily talking about the quality of the service that the person provides you. They may provide an excellent quality of service. And I think sometimes we are so accustomed to ignoring the emotional side or how we feel that all we care about is, did they do a good job? And what I'm saying is, I want us to care beyond the service. Okay? If let's use our divorce attorney. Let's say somebody's going through a divorce and they've had a rough time and they are just in a really low vibrational, weakened state. And they contact a divorce attorney. And the divorce attorney is a legitimate attorney, does a great job, but they treat you like shit. They talk to you poorly. They use a disrespectful tone when they're talking to you. They're just not nice. They don't make you feel comfortable or comforted. What I'm saying is those situations is where you should be reevaluating whether or not you want to go back to that person or not. Those situations. Because we are, like I said, we're so used to going, it's okay. They act crazy, but they food's still good. It's no such thing as isolating the two. If you got that divorce attorney and that divorce attorney in your mind that seems to be doing a good job because maybe they got you the amount of money, maybe you wanted a certain amount a month, maybe you wanted a settlement, maybe you wanted certain things, and they treated you like crap. They talked down to you. They had a very aggressive and nasty tone every time you called them, but they got you what they wanted. What they got you is not separate from the emotions of how you felt. The vibration is not separate, because 9 times out of 10, in your emotional state, you may have asked for what was lining up with your frequency at that time. But what you could have gotten was more. But that person didn't fight to get you more because they was just trying to satisfy your needs, your desires, your requests, get your money and get up out of there. And they didn't have the respect to treat you in a certain way. So this is what I'm saying. We should be so keen on how people conduct themselves in business. And I'm not saying they got to be your best friend. I'm not saying that they got to be, walking around waiting on you hand and foot. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that you deserve a decent amount of respect. We have to stop allowing the trauma that we are currently in to cloud the treatment that we expect from others. Because sometimes when it ain't as bad as what we're going through, we just accept it. We just go, you know what? I don't even care no more. This is why cleaning up these financial traumas are so very important, because our discernment is off. Our ability to mathematically think is off. Our ability to think clearly is cloudy. It's impacted. So that we're going to announce this week the second financial trauma boot camp. A lot of y'all didn't come, but you got to come to this second one. We're going to be talking about the financial impact of divorce. We're going to talk about the financial impact of foreclosures. What to do if you got served. And so the question becomes, okay, now what? We're going to be talking about some of these financially devastating events and how they impact you. We're going to give some technical advice on how to work it out, how to prevent some of these things from happening, how to fix them once you're already in them. I'm talking about a real tactical boot camp. We're going to bring some subject matter experts in who are going to tell you, how do I prevent this divorce from financially devastating me? How do I stop a foreclosure? And if I can't stop it, how do I deal with the emotions of it? It's going to be what they call it, chock full of services. And Sister Monica said, oh, yes, ma'am, I get it. I have a friend who owns a coffee shop, and I am always sending and bringing customers. The coffee is excellent, but she can be very crass with people, and her reviews reflect it. Because people buy experiences. But because we are navigating through this trauma, don't go and do business with people that make you feel that way. Don't do it. Don't go into a coffee shop if the people are just mean. Don't go to a attorney, whether it's a divorce attorney or whatever, who talks down to you. Because in those moments when you're in that trauma, you don't need somebody else creating more trauma. And for us as Black people, we're always navigating through some type of trauma. As Americans, we're always navigating through some kind of trauma. But as Black Americans, we usually got layers and layers of trauma because there's so much there. So don't let people pile onto it. Don't let people pile onto it. When you speak to your attorney, your accountant, when you go into your local coffee shop, that should be your little space of relief. Even if something is happening that is undesirable, that conversation, that interaction should give you that little relief. And if it doesn't, don't spend your money there if you can help it. Now, sometimes, that might be the only service provider you have, or the only store in the area, or the only this or that. And you may not have a choice, but make sure you're very keenly aware of what you're dealing with and how that person treated you and made you feel. Brother Ronald said, business referral based from reliable sources. We offer the best option and opportunities. The benefit first, contractor's agreement upon signatures. Don't undermine the wording. Okay, I understand what you're talking about. Even with subcontractors and contractors, if we're talking about real estate, I have put out plenty of RFPs for big projects, subcontracting opportunities, all of that. That's right, Sister Monica, because you don't want that bad energy going down up in your coffee. That coffee ain't that good if they got to treat you a certain way and you got to endure all of that. It's going to be something missing, trust me. But I put out plenty of RFPs for real estate. I remember when I put together an RFP for when we were building the hospital, and we would put out for the different clinics and spas. I'd put an RFP, but this one was a big one, and I had narrowed it down to these contractors, and I wanted it to be a Black contractor, and my business partner wanted it to be a Black contractor, and we had talked about it, and we were trying to see, if we could put this kind of team together, just a community pride, right? And I remember everybody coming in, and when we were doing the interviews after people submitted their bids and we narrowed them down, I didn't tell the people who I was. So, because I just wanted to see how they treated me if they didn't know that I was the owner of the project. And so I didn't say anything. And there was one Black contractor who just didn't show up at all. So, they didn't get the job, but there was one who did. And every time I asked the man a question, he ignored me and was addressing my engineers and my architects. And I just kept doing it just until I wanted them to see the type of behavior that I was not going to tolerate. I kept asking questions and he just kind of kept dissing me. And then finally, I said, what experience do you have with healthcare construction? Now, if you know anything about construction, you know that when you start dealing with healthcare, especially a surgery center where you got radiology equipment and some places where the walls and floors have to be thicker and you have to place those rooms in certain parts of the building so people don't get radiation damage. It's a whole process. And then the FIGLI guidelines are very strict. So you got to deal with the federal and the state guidelines. In our case, we were in Maryland, and Maryland's guidelines for building healthcare facilities was stricter than the federal guidelines. Sometimes, a lot of times, the other way around. But in this case, Maryland had a lot of little quirky things. And so I wanted to make sure that a contractor understood that, how to deal with a fire inspector, not just a fire inspector, say for a restaurant or whatever, but a fire inspector for a healthcare facility. And he looked at me and he said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Construction is construction." And then he turned to the engineer and the architect and started back talking to them about something. And I said, "You know what? I'm going to stop the meeting." So by that time, my engineer had had enough, and he told him who I was. You should have seen his face. And I said, "So I think it's safe for you to assume that you are not getting this project." And so he started trying to explain, and he said how he got so excited. I said, "No, you can pack your things and you and your team can leave." And I dismissed them. And the reason why I did that was because not only did I want my team to understand how I wanted to teach my team how to treat me, but I was not going to sit through another minute of somebody who was attempting to discredit me. And the only thing he knew about me was that I was a Black woman sitting at the table. And I don't know if it was the Black or the woman, whichever one it was, but whatever it was making him outwardly disrespect me. So those are the kind of things that I want us to pay attention, because oftentimes, even when we're in corporate, we don't get to make those types of decisions with that level of granular analysis, because oftentimes in corporate, we got a checklist. We got to pick who the company kind of wants us to pick, and we end up being on a team with people we don't really like or vendors we ain't really feeling. But in your business, make sure that you got a good vibration, because I already knew. I said, if you can come to a meeting that I put together for an RFP for a project that I own in a space that I rented, because we rented like a generic space. We didn't even have it come to the offices. We didn't even want people to know. And treat me like that. Imagine how you're going to treat me on the project. And I was like, you ain't getting it. It's a relationship. So I'm going to get out of here, y'all. But this is what I want us to remember from today. If you find yourself struggling and you're not making progress, stop for a moment and ask yourself, what did I replace God with? And if you still can't get an answer, ask God, what did I replace you with? Because most of the time, the reason why we're not manifesting, the reason why we're not getting what we want is because we've replaced God with something. Okay? So all of us don't like Black women in leadership some of us, he's saying, don't like Black women in leadership making decisions. Yeah, it's real. But as a Black woman, when I am in a leadership position, I have to tease that out, because I've learned enough through experience that if I let you stay on the team, it's just going to be a nightmare for me. And then I'm not going to enjoy the process, and I'm not going to get an opportunity to be in the right creative space and functioning in the right frequency zone so that I can take this project to the next level. So it's unfair for the other people who come to the project and help to create the right environment for me to allow you to be on the project, and you're disrupting the environment that we're trying to create, because all of a sudden we're going to find where we're not going to have the successes that we think that we should have. So smart move. Thank you. Ask yourself, what did I replace God? Yeah. What did I replace God with? And if you are one of these people holding 10-year, 20-year, 25-year-old grudges, then you got to ask yourself, where do I need to grow and heal so that I'm so busy working on myself and enjoying the blessings that I have that I don't even remember this person. This person should become so insignificant that you can just move right on past them, speak, and keep it moving, and have to really go in and jog your memory and say, oh yeah, I do kind of remember that. But you should be so busy with your blessings that you ain't got time for no 10-year, 20-year, 25-year-old, because all you're doing is telling a wise person what frequency you on and what grid you're plugged into. They can spot it because you still got fresh energy for something old that you really shouldn't even remember. You should be so busy managing all the blessings that you have. Everyone, please share. Thank you so much. Thank you for reminding everyone to share. And thank you, Servant Nasir, for mentioning that the boot camp was powerful. I am working to make this next one even more powerful, and even more life-changing. Like I said, we're going to talk about financial trauma in general. And we're, of course, going to have our spiritual tools, but we're going to talk about the financial trauma of divorce, the financial trauma of being in foreclosure or evictions. A lot of people facing this housing crisis that we have all around us. And what do? Part of what causes trauma is because a lot of people are just like, I just don't know what to do. I'm in this situation. I've gotten myself in this situation. I'm in trouble. My husband left me. My wife left me. I got sick, whatever. I'm in trouble. But what do I do? How do I prevent this from becoming another layer of trauma? And so we're going to dig into that. We're going to talk about the technical and functional things that you can do. What paperwork can you file? How do you prevent that divorce, that foreclosure, that eviction from creating like a whole total breakdown and financial devastation that could alter the rest of your life? And I'm talking about just moving with a level of integrity. You know, some of you all who attended know that we took a vow at the beginning of the boot camp. We said, I'm going to stop lying to myself and I'm going to face my problems head on. If you in the chat and you attended the boot camp and you remember taking that vow, that's what we're approaching. That's how we're approaching this healing process, is taking responsibility. Not going, hey, let me see what 800 number I could call and run this quick scam and get myself up out of it. Getting to the bottom of how did we get here? And now that we got here, we got to deal with the healing and we got to deal with how to stop it from becoming a devastating event. If it's an eviction or a foreclosure, how do we recover? How do we get ourselves out of it? How do we satisfy the situation that we're in so that we can remain whole and safe? If we're in a divorce, how do we navigate it? How do we deal with it? How do we prevent it from being, like a one-sided thing where we get left holding the whole bag? So these are things that we have to talk about, because while these are very much American financial traumas, for us as a people, we got all these layers, that we're dealing with. Most of the time when you talk to somebody, they may say, you know what, I got sick. I got served foreclosure papers. My auntie died, and that's the one who raised me. My son went to jail. And so there'll be all these layers of trauma, like all on top of one another. And so unraveling that and figuring out how do we how do we deal with these kind of things is what we want to help us to do so that we can move forward and unite, do for self, love ourselves, accept our own, be ourselves, just helping to aid us in following those instructions is what the goal is. So stay close. I'm working on it. Hopefully I'll be able to get that out here today or tomorrow. Y'all know me, it's going to be a series of advertising. The advertising is going to unfold. You'll see the general commercial. You ought to go out there. We do have a sponsor, so the cost will be a little bit less this time. I'm just trying to see how we're going to work it out with these financial experts that are joining us. But y'all already know, if people don't want to come and they ain't about helping us heal, we're going to figure it out. All right. So Sister Monica said, it absolutely was a great financial trauma boot camp. Looking forward to the upcoming one too. Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. I'm so glad that you liked it. And I'm so glad that it was of value to those of you who attended. And God willing, more of you will attend next time. So just stay tuned. We'll be here tomorrow morning for the State of Black Business. We're going to continue talking about, we're going to continue our series on corporate governance. And I think tomorrow we're going to talk about risk mitigation. It's one of the pillars of corporate governance. All right. Okay. Peace and blessings, family. Love you all. Make it a good Monday. Make sure that we're asking ourselves a question. If there's anything we're stuck with or stuck on or stuck and just can't seem to move the needle, we got to ask ourselves, what did I replace God with in this situation? Was it the problem? Was it the man? Was it the food? What did I replace God with? And you'd be surprised that once that answer comes up and you make that tiny little adjustment, things will flow so much better for you. Okay, family, love you all very much. Wishing you all more peace and goodness than you've ever experienced or imagined.